Hello, this is Dave Thibodeau, Daking Audio, and in this video we're going to talk about the Patchbay. Okay, as you see the Patchbay section, we have the input module section here and also to the left, but we're just showing you a portion. And then the master section is over here on the Patchbay. But first, let me just talk about what's obviously lit up here in the top, and that's we have some 3 power indicators for 3 power rails, the 5 volt, the 38, and the 48 volt phantom power rails. And then we have power switches for the individual buckets. So you have the center section bucket 1 through 16 and 17 through 32. So you can power down the individual sections. Then at the very bottom, you see we have an oscillator available. The oscillator is fairly well featured. You have 1K, 10K, 100 Hertz as you would expect. You also have a sweep feature. When you select sweep, you have a pot here that you can select the frequency between 10 Hertz and 20 kilohertz and do a sweep across the frequencies. And then you have a pink noise generator to generate pink noise should you choose to. And then Jeff has his favorite goat setting, but we won't go there. Anyways, we have also a level control. At the very bottom, it's calibrated. There's a click, so it goes into the calibrated +4 out, and then obviously you have a level control to be able to control the level of the oscillator should you choose to. Okay, here we have the input module section of the Patchbay, where you have the mic out, which obviously would be the signal from the microphones out in the studio, the preamp in, the recorder out. This is out from your workstation, which will half normal down to the line in, and also normal into the monitor in. So that's why these two are right next to each other. Line in and monitor in are both inputs to the input module. And then the insert send and insert return. That's pretty straightforward. And there's your direct out, which can half normal into something else like the recorder input from your direct outs into your workstation. And the rest we'll talk about later on. So that's your basic input section. Now over in the master section at the very top, we have your reverb return module inputs. So where you can have the source, your effects out to the reverb return, then your reverb return inputs, all 8 of them. The mixer, the sub-mixer in the center section, you have the sources, whatever you want to normal into that, down into the mixer, the 8 channels of the sub-mixer. We have a handy mult sitting there. And then below here, we have the center section, the stereo bus section. The insert, send and return for the stereo bus, and then the main bus out for the main mix. That half normals, it says mix to 2-track, to TT, 2-track. This is a nice little mult. It half normals to there. That signal shows up at the 2-track recorder inputs, 1 and 2. So if you don't patch anything in, the mix will go to the 2 tracks. And you can obviously patch something else in here and it will break that normal. Then the recorder outputs, the 2-track recorder outs will show up here and come into the 2-track monitor. So these 2-track monitors is what's on the Patchbay, in the center section. When you select 2-track 1, 2-track 2, you're listening to those patch points. So you can take your iPhone and patch them into there or some other source and be able to get into the monitor section to listen to a playback. Below here, we have the oscillator out and a phase reverse. We kind of did a clever thing here. If you're on the top jack, it's the output of this oscillator. If you want a phase reverse, you just use the 2 jacks. They come in one and out the other, whichever way, doesn't matter. It will reverse the polarity of the signal. We have the Talkback section. So the Talkback mic will show up here and go into the Talkback input, of course. And then the Studio Listen mics will show up here and go into the Studio Listen mic input for the microphone preamp for the Studio Listen. And we also have because since there's a compressor, a mic pre and a compressor, we also took that output and sent it up to the Patchbay. So it's available here if you want to record your room mic heavily compressed. And that's NC, means nothing. We have another mult here. Now these 6 or 8, 12 points, if I can add correctly here, do my multiplying. This is your main, your aux1, and your aux2. These are your control room outputs, your 3 outputs, and here are your amplifier inputs. So they show up at the Patchbay. So should you question your amplifiers or levels, you have it available at the Patchbay, which is really nice. And obviously you can patch something else in should you choose to. Or if you wanted to go to some temporary monitors, you can grab them from here at the Patchbay.